how to escape the starving artist paradigm and actually make serious income from your art. That's what I want to talk about in this video. Today it's raining, it's a bit cold, so I thought that's actually a perfect time to make a video, have a hot cup of coffee and paint while I talk about this. So let's get into it. So if you don't know me yet, my name is Oliver. I made over 200,000 from my art. I'm self-taught, never studied art, and I definitely didn't follow the conventional path of, how to become a successful artist. I never was in a gallery. I didn't do what all the art agents told me I should do. And I raised my prices when I felt like it, when people gave me permission to. Right? So I'm coming from a little bit of a different background. But I also saw, and I talked to a lot of artists, and I saw how many limiting beliefs artists have. And I had it too, right? It was not just from today to tomorrow, and I started selling one painting after the next. I struggled for many years, right? And the biggest reason was because, there were different reasons. In the beginning, of course, my art wasn't that great, but I actually sold one of my first paintings ever when I just started painting. A few years later, when I had a different mindset and started understanding how all of this works, for 3,800 Swiss francs, which is probably like 4,500 USD or even more. Can you imagine that? So that also showed me it was not just that my art got better, because there are lots of super talented artists that, they're way better than me. My art is not the best. I like my art, it's abstract. I don't like every piece that I'm creating, but I have people paying me a lot of money, up to 24K for my paintings, right? So I know a little bit what I'm talking about, and I know lots of super talented artists. If they just would do more of what I'm saying here, because they already have the skills, they already have the talent, they're amazing at what they're doing. But if they just do more of the mindset and business and marketing strategies that I use, they will make serious money, right? But really serious money, probably more than I ever did. Okay, so let's get into it. Today I'm going to paint this painting. And I have some oil colors. This is actually all acrylic. It's just like the first, there are 2 layers already, but I really don't like it. But it's also just the start, right? So I'm gonna paint with oil and let's see what comes out of it. Sometimes I just do painting spontaneously. I do whatever I feel like. There's no plan, nothing. It's just all in the flow. Okay, that's usually how I do it. Wait, this thing really annoys me there, so let me get this off. So, looks much better now. Yeah, much better. Now I have a few colors here. And yeah, usually when I paint, I just do it intuitively, whatever I feel like in this moment. And I don't even know what I'm gonna do, but I really like it. It makes me feel good, and it's a kind of like a therapy. And of course I have paintings and series, that are planned out, that are planned out more. And they're very different. And I'm actually working on a series that I want to publish soon. And it's going to not just be a series, it's going to be potentially like a new style. And I'm actually planning to open up a new Instagram account and implement everything that I learned about Instagram and see how fast I can grow that account. But it will take a lot of work, time, and dedication. But I think it will be great also for, as a case study to show other artists how fast you. So we are back. My iPhone didn't have any storage left. I'm actually seriously thinking about buying the 17 Pro and then not connecting it to my iCloud account. Like maybe make a complete new iCloud account where there's nothing on there. And then I will be able to just more smoothly create content, because I really love creating content. And it's so annoying if you suddenly don't have any storage, right? You're in the middle of filming and then you don't have any storage. But anyways, so what I was saying, exactly. So yeah, so this is going to be just a spontaneous painting, no plan, nothing. And yeah, but let's talk about how to escape the starving artist paradigm and make serious money from your art, because that's exactly what I did. And the first thing, and I know you don't want to hear it, but the first thing is the mindset. You need to have a vision, okay? So, and I want to define mindset. What does this even mean? It means that you know exactly what you want. You're crystal clear. Because it's so important. Like, how do you know what to do if you don't even know exactly what you want, right? So you need to have a vision as an artist. Like, what do you actually want to achieve? What is a successful artist for you? What does it mean for you to live a successful life, right? Do you want to travel the world? you want to sell your paintings for thousands of dollars? Or do you want to make passive income and rather like sell prints? Do you want to travel the world and go make big exhibitions and big shows? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to, or do you don't, you maybe you don't care about this. Maybe you want to have like maybe you don't want to be famous. Maybe you want to have more like passive income and spend more time with your family. And maybe for you, your dream, your vision is to make 5,000 a month from your art. For others might be 10,000, 20,000, maybe even more. Some have really big dreams and maybe they want to make millions with their art, right? But you need to know what a successful life looks like for you. What is your vision? That's the first thing. You really have to be clear on that. The next step is knowing why you want it, right? Because that gives you the fuel. I really see many artists, they don't really know what they want, or if they know what they want, they don't believe they can get it, and so they doubt, right? And they feel kind of bad, and then they don't take action. And it's very important that you take massive action. If you want to make serious income from your art, you have to take serious action, okay? But without a vision and a strong purpose, a strong why, it's going to be really hard to stick with the action. Because I can tell you, it's not going to be easy, right? Let's just be upfront. It's not going to be easy, even if other people promise you like easy ways or easy steps on how to sell your art. It's all marketing, right? They just want you to believe it's as easy as possible, so you click on the videos. But I want to be honest, it's not going to be easy, but it's still possible. But it becomes easier if you have a strong vision that really excites you and a strong why, a strong purpose, because that really gives you the energy and the fuel. And then also it will be easier to overcome some limitations and blockages that you have, okay? But without the strong vision and strong purpose, it's not going to be worth the effort and the struggles and getting out of your comfort zone, right? So that's really the first thing you have to do. And then you also define what it means to be a thriving artist, right? Because unconsciously, if you don't have a vision and a strong purpose, unconsciously you always will fall back to what society thinks artists are, right? And society thinks an artist is a starving artist. It's like unrealistic to make money from your art. It's not possible, or it's very, very hard, or you need to be extremely famous in order to do it, or whatever they believe, right? And we heard these things in the past. I mean, I had people telling me things like this, right? They told me I will lose my head because I'm a daydreamer. They told me these things are unrealistic. It's unrealistic to be creative and do something with it. You're not going to earn any money. We heard this, we probably all heard these things, right? So it's very important that you define your vision, what you want, okay? And yeah, if you have your vision and your purpose, like you know why you want it, then it's important that you strengthen your belief, right? And that's also something many artists actually struggle with. They don't really know how they can strengthen their belief, because now they know what they want. They even have a strong purpose, but at the same time, they still don't really believe that it's possible. And if you don't believe it's possible, why should you bother, right? Why should you take massive action? Anyway, it's not going to be worth it since it's not possible in your mind, right? And there are lots of artists that don't believe it's possible. That's why I also have comments in my videos from people telling me I'm a scam, because they don't believe something like this, something that I did with my art that is not the most amazing art, is possible. But it just reflects their own disbelief and doubt, right? So belief is extremely important. How do you raise your belief? How can you start believing that it's possible? It's very simple, like look for evidence, right? Look for people that achieved big things. Especially if you find artists that achieve these things, look for them, okay? And there are lots of them. If you look for successful artists, you're going to find them, right? But you also have to be open-minded. If you say like everyone is a scam that claims to make money, then you set yourself up for failure, right? You have to be open. It doesn't mean you believe everyone everything, but you need to be open-minded, okay? And look for successful artists, because again, yeah, there are lots of them, right? I know a lot of full-time artists. I mean, in our community, I have a mastermind with Maria Brophy. I mean, Maria Brophy, she sold millions in art. She's an amazing proof. I made over 200,000 from my art. I am a proof. And we have about, like, from what she said, we actually should track that, but she said about 20% of our members are full-time artists, right? And we have some huge wins, right? Some big numbers, artists that make some big numbers. And that strengthens your belief. So another thing, how to raise your belief, is surround yourself with successful artists that already make money. That will definitely strengthen your belief. And I highly recommend you join our community, because we have artists that are striving to make money, and artists that already make a lot of money from their art, and me and Maria that teach all of this stuff, right? So then once you believe that it's actually possible and you have a vision and you have a strong purpose, you did already most of the work. That's 80% of the work actually, because the thing is, without it, you can have the best strategy in the world. I can show you exactly step by step how to do it, and you're not going to do it. I guarantee you that. And I actually know that because I had already several art students, and I can tell you exactly what the ones did that failed and the ones that succeeded, what they did differently. And it was the mindset, because I taught them the exact same strategy. And it was definitely not talent, because the artist that I coached in 2024, so 1 year ago, she was not the most talented artist. Really not. I mean, it was nice, but she did digital art and she printed it out. In 3 months working with me, she made 17,000 from her art and sold one single print, which we made it a one-of-a-kind print, but still it's a print. She sold it for 8,000 with my strategy. She just did everything that I told her step by step, but the others not. The others, they were blocked. Like, let's say the strategy that I taught them has 10 levels, right? And since she had the right mindset, she could just go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, 4, 5, 6. And then she's like, oh, okay, there is a problem. I don't know what to do. She's asking me, I give her my advice, what I did, what I would do in her situation, and she actually did it. And then she moved up from level 6 to level 7, 8, 9, 10 till she sold, right? With the other artists, the problem was they went to level 3, 4, 5, and then they were blocked. They had which is completely normal, by the way. Success is not just like a straight line and it's just like super easy and peasy, because again, everyone would be successful then, right? So it's not always easy. Sometimes you have to do things that are uncomfortable. And so the ones with the right mindset, they just do the work. They overcome these blockages, right? But the ones that are just not ready mentally, they stop, they give up. They have a blockage, they have like a roadblock, if you say it like this, and they decide on one point, not consciously of course, but they start having so many excuses why this isn't working, that they on one point just stop. They cannot go any further anymore, even though it's the exact same strategy, right? So this I already can tell you. So that's why mindset is important. But let's say you have this out of the way. You feel like you have a great mindset and you feel like ready to get going, you feel motivated, you have you're just crystal clear what you want and why you want it, right? And now you're like, I just want the strategy. I really want to know how to do it now. Okay? If you're at that place, then I'll tell you exactly what to do step by step. Once you have your personal life out of the way, meaning you know your vision, your why, and you actually believe it's possible, then you need to focus on your art, right? And I call it basically like the blue ocean versus the red ocean. There was a book written about that, right? And it applies for everyone, for every business owner, entrepreneurs, and especially also artists. So many artists, they think within a box. And if you think within a box, you think like everyone else, so you are in the red ocean. And if you're in the red ocean, you're just competing with lots of artists, because we can agree there are lots of artists actually, right? There are quite a lot of artists that want to make money from their art. And so you have a lot of competition because you are working within the red ocean. So if you want to make serious income from your art, you have to get into the blue ocean. And how do you do that? You do that by thinking outside of the box. And the easiest way to do that is by thinking beyond your art style, your medium. If you use oils, acrylic, abstract, realism, portraits, landscape, all this stuff. Don't think of your art like this. Think of your art in terms of your why, your purpose as an artist, right? And that's very important. Because if you do that, you will figure out that what you do in that way, in this unique way, right? Because it could, like, I'm an abstract artist. I am a unique being, right? There could be other artists that do abstract art, and maybe they have a similar purpose or mission than me, but they definitely don't have the same story, right? You cannot replicate two people. Every person, even if they're similar, they're different. So I focused all my attention on my story. And out of my story, my personal story, which nobody can copy because I experienced that was the life that I was living, I created my purpose as an artist, why I create the art, why I want to share my art, why, like, the impact I want to make in this world, right? And that's exactly what I was focusing on when I was marketing my art. So that is the biggest difference. And in the beginning, I was like, before it was working well with my art, I was thinking like everyone else. I was like targeting art collectors or trying to find art collectors and find people, wealthy art collectors or abstract art lovers. That's how I was thinking. And that's exactly what I mean when I talk about thinking within a box, right? This is definitely thinking within a box. It's like, abstract art lovers, right? How do I find them? And you can search for Facebook groups, art collectors, abstract art lovers, landscape, whatever. You can put in these keywords onto Facebook, and what you will see is that you will find 99% of artists in there. Not, not what you were hoping, that you find art collectors or art buyers or abstract art lovers or whatever, right? That is not what you will find there. So I needed to first realize that, and then I started focusing on my why, on my purpose. And then I was looking for people that actually resonate not necessarily with my art or my art style. Because again, like how do you find someone that is an abstract art lover? I mean, if you find an abstract art lover, just in my case, and you can basically translate it to any art style that you are doing. But let's say I'm looking for abstract art lovers. If I find some of these people, they are probably shopping around for abstract art. Right? Again, I'm going to compete with a lot of abstract artists because that's what they're looking for. They're shopping for the best abstract art they can find, probably also for the best price. Okay? So I don't want to compete with other abstract artists. So what I did is like I focused on my ideal buyer who resonated with my purpose, my why. And these people, they were not even looking for art. And you might think now, oh, will they even buy art? And I can tell you, yes, they do. And they spend way more money on your art because they are not looking for art. Your value goes beyond the art itself. And these people spend thousands on my art. As I said, that's how I was able to get someone to pay $24,000 for my artwork, because she wasn't a typical art buyer. And many of my collectors are actually not art buyers. So I have no competition. And when they become interested in art because of me. And they then become my collectors. So when they buy art, they keep buying from me. Okay? And of course, I did have some art buyers that bought paintings from other artists too, of course. But most of my art collectors, they never bought art before, which is great. So you introduce them to the art world, and they also probably have a lot of money to spend on your art, again, because they're not like shopping around, and you don't have to compete on price. So I don't have any idea what I'm doing here right now, but this is like my abstract art process is very messy most of the time. And I'm actually probably going to transition to a more cohesive and consistent style, just because I don't like this so much anymore that I don't know what I'm doing, which I was thriving on that. I loved that when I started my art. I just wanted to experiment and try things. And that was, by the way, for people that are looking for their art style. I have the feeling this comes naturally. And I didn't have my art style for a long time. I mean, even now I have one that I want to make my art style. And I'm like pulled into that direction naturally without forcing myself. But for a long time, I thought this will actually hinder me to not have a style. But again, I haven't been in the art world in that sense, right? I haven't been exhibiting in galleries. I think if you are in galleries, then maybe it's important to have your art style. But I was independent and I was selling my art on Facebook most of the time, right? I met people live at events. I did post on Instagram, but I basically sold almost no paintings on Instagram. I had people seeing some artworks on Instagram, but they were like, I was connected with them also on Facebook. I think like your art style will develop naturally. But I don't think you need to push yourself to find an art style, except you want to fit within the art world and you maybe want to get in a gallery and stuff, because I think, then it's needed, right? But again, for a long time, I didn't have an art style, and it didn't hinder me. Right? It was actually quite cool because they could really decide and choose from all the different styles I had available. It was like a menu they could choose from. right? And just now, after many years, I started to feel like I really would like to have a more cohesive style. And I did have series actually. So I had the Joy series, which was all cohesive. I had the Abundance series, which was cohesive. And then I had just some abstract artworks. They were not very cohesive. They were just based on like what I felt like, right? So, yeah. So I always had series, yeah. The more I'm painting here, the more I realize I don't want to experiment with abstract art anymore. I've done enough. I've painted like probably, I don't even know, 200-300 paintings, probably even more. And some like quite a lot of big ones, right? In Switzerland, I have a whole storage full of artworks. And I think I'm ready to focus on a style. I actually can, no, I don't want to show the style yet because it's not a secret, but yeah, I want to keep people excited for it. Yeah, back to the topic. So if I would tell you about my strategy, the ones that are gonna actually implement my strategy are the ones that believe it's actually working, right? And yeah, if you get a strategy, you also need to believe that the strategy itself works, right? You need to really give the strategy a go. If you're already doubting the strategy, you're not gonna follow through it. That's also important. So yeah, my strategy, as I talk about this quite a lot in my videos. So if you watch other videos, you probably already know, talking a lot about Facebook. And Instagram can work like super well as well. And for some artists it does. But it also requires you to create content, and Instagram is a little bit differently. So if you want to make money pretty fast from your art, Facebook is easier. As I said, it's not easy because you still have to learn things, right? So, but let's say you do it. You find your why as an artist. You have your purpose, right? You know why you create art. Then you focus on that rather than your art style. You connect with people that care about the same things. And let's say my example was like personal growth, spirituality. These were my ideal art buyers. And I was connecting with them. And I then realized that for me personally, I wanted to sell my art for a lot of money. That was my vision, right? I wanted to know how it feels like to sell my art for like 10,000, 20,000, which I did in the end. I wanted to know how it feels like, right? So that was my goal. I didn't want to sell prints. I didn't want to sell cheap things, even though like you can make money with this too. I know a lot of artists, they make a lot of money from print drops, right? And their prints are not expensive, but they have like more people that buy it because yeah, of course, like if you sell prints for like, let's say $100, in order to make 10,000 a month, you would need to sell, 100 prints. And the question is like, where do you find 100 people or where do they find you? So I've never done it, honestly. I actually want to learn these things as well because my business partner, Maria, is also doing this very successfully. So I want to learn from her how to do that. My strategy was like focusing on originals. And to be honest, my art doesn't take that long, right? So I can paint again, like I can paint so many abstract artworks. So I also didn't feel the need that I need to do now prints, right? But if you take hours or like weeks and months for an artwork, you need to 100% do prints because it takes you so much time to produce your product basically, right? So yeah, but yeah, I was focusing on originals, sold them for a few $1,000 because that's what I wanted and I believed in it. And so all I needed to do is like sell maybe one painting and I was already doing pretty well, right? And I quit my job in 2020 and I did have, I had some slow months, I had some good months, but I have several months where I made like over 10,000. My biggest month was where I made 30,000 in a single month, which was really, really exciting, right? So, yeah. But when I learned something, it's like save your money. if you're just starting, especially if you're an artist, save your money, don't spend it all. Because I thought like it will be every month like this. Now I'm much better at managing my money. But I think I created a lot of unnecessary stress because I didn't really manage my money well. And I probably would have sold even more because I really believe if you are managing your money well, you feel better, right? You're not in a financial stressful situation. And if you're stressed out financially, that really affects you. And it affects the way you show up and talk to people, right? So that's a big lesson that I learned. But back to the strategy, I go in Facebook groups, like spiritual Facebook groups, but again, here you also need to think outside of the box. If you just type in on Facebook, you can try it out. You can put in meditation, spirituality, but this is all too broad. These groups are probably not very high quality. They're probably pretty spammy. and that won't work, right? You need to find quality groups. Quality groups means it's like a community with real people that engage, they interact with each other, they maybe ask questions, they share things. So it's not just quotes in there. And you also want to look out for Indian people and stuff like this, because they usually don't have the money to buy art, right? So you want to find high quality groups based on your purpose as an artist, right? And I actually spend a lot of money on different personal growth programs and even coaching programs for artists specifically. And that was one big thing that I learned from several people, that this is quite important, because art equals emotions, right? So if people don't feel anything, then they're not going to be emotionally involved enough in order to spend money. And there is no rational reason to own an artwork. I mean, okay, a rational reason would be to fill the wall and, you know, make the apartment nice, but you don't need to spend thousands to make that happen, right? And another rational reason actually for many art buyers is art as an investment. But that starts like a secure investment. As an art collector, is art from blue chip artists, so famous artists, right? They don't usually invest in emerging artists because they know the risk involved, right? It's like you're buying a crypto coin where you have no idea if you're going to lose all the money or it goes up, right? I mean, the only thing with investing in an emerging artist is that they have a beautiful piece of art. But yeah, it's most of the time not the reason they buy your art. They don't buy your art as an investment, even though they can play a role. I did have some buyers that were, I think they just actually rationalized it, because I think the most important thing was they were connected to the artwork. They were connected, first of all, to me, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And since they knew me and we connected, we built a rapport, it opened the door for them being interested in my art. And then they've connected to like a specific artwork. And I think that's the main reason they bought it, right? We make emotional decisions and we justify them with logic. And so I think for many, saying it is an investment makes them feel good. But real art collectors that really invest in art and they know how this game works, they usually don't invest in emerging artists, right? So everyone that buys your art is making an emotional decision. That's very important to know. So that's why it's so important to connect to people beyond your art. And that's also why the why and purpose as an artist is so powerful. Because that's where you build, it's a complete different foundation already when you connect to these people, right? Because it's not about the art, really. It's not about the art style. You know, the art style, the medium, how long it took you, that's all not very emotional. That's all logical. And people don't really care about that. That's not the reason they buy it. They buy it because of emotional reasons, okay? So that's why the why and the purpose and your story as an artist, if you can tell your story in an emotional way, that's so much more powerful, right? And that's all I did. That's how I was able to sell so much art. And then, of course, if I want to sell my art for high prices, I cannot expect to put my artworks on a website and, you know, get people to buy it just like without talking to me. That's possible with prints because that's not such a big purchase. But if you want to sell your art for, let's say, 5,000, you have to have a high touch, meaning you need to talk to people one-on-one, right? And that's what I did. You don't even need to do it live. I've done it on Zoom all the time. But I've seen people live as well. Like if they were in Switzerland and I could, like, they're not too far away from me, I was going there and brought them some artworks and, you know, was hanging it on the wall and they could have it for a bit. But these were just people I already built a relationship with, right? Not complete strangers. And then they had my artwork on their wall, and most of the time they actually ended up buying it. And one of my collectors, she ended up getting a commission because I brought her 2 pieces she couldn't decide. There were 6,800 Swiss francs. And I told her, I can make a commission for you. It would be just 10,000. And she got the commission. Pretty cool. So yeah, but most of the time I actually did it on Zoom. The lady that bought the painting for 24,000, that was all over Zoom. I never met her live. Incredible, right? For most artists, again, this is unbelievable. But if it's unbelievable for you, your belief level is not there yet, right? But yeah, start where you're at and start selling. But it's very important. If you want to sell your art for a few $1,000, you need to have a high touch. You need to connect to people live. And Maria actually recommends still that you meet people live. And it's true. It's like, it's very easy to build rapport and build a relationship if you meet people live, right? But it's already very possible on Zoom too. As I tested, right? I sold many on Zoom. So yeah, and I have no idea what I'm doing here. I really don't like it, but it happens sometimes. It's also pretty hard to actually talk and make an artwork, especially since I'm not, I didn't have any plan. I'm literally just doing something, right? But I'm sure if I'm spending a bit more time here, something will come out of it. It's probably not what I want, but that's the thing. If you don't have a plan, it can come out anyway, right? So that's why it's also important for your art business to have a plan. But I think I will just mix the colors more together and more like instead of these round things and stuff, this is too chaotic for me. I will paint here for a while, but I hope that makes sense. And I'm actually planning on making a video where I will sit on my computer and share my screen with some notes, so I really can walk you through my process step by step. So it's easier for you to imagine and replicate, right? Because my goal here is that you not just listen. I want you to be inspired and believe that it's possible, because again, that's the first step, but I also want you to start taking action, because that's really, really important. You need to start taking action if you're seriously wanting to sell your art, because that's what will sell your art. It's your action. You reaching out to new buyers, you finding new people and all these things. It's not going to happen if you don't take action. And I'm sure you already know that. But it's just good to be reminded of that, right? Because if you're not doing much right now to market your art, you cannot really expect to sell. And I have a rule of thumb, which is you have to talk, or like you need to get to the finish line, which is something I told one of our art students last time. Is like, if you want to sell, he wanted to sell a painting for 4,000. And he said, like, what should I do if somebody says no? Should I negotiate the price? And I'm like, it's up to you. If you really want to have 4,000 for the piece, then you just need to know that people will say no, right? You cannot expect the first person you talk to will say yes. And that's actually what many artists do. They talk to one person that is interested, and they put all their hope into that person. And when this person disappears, ghosts them, or says no, they're crushed, right? And they're like, oh, this isn't working. And they start doubting everything about, making art and becoming a full-time artist and their goals and dreams. They question everything. But I told him, like, if you really want to sell that piece for 4,000, be first of all aware that people are going to say no. It's part of the game. And I told him then as well, like, if you really, really want to sell it, make a game out of it. And say to yourself, like, I will see how many no's I can get before someone says yes. That's what I told him. Because the thing is, like, the more no's you get, the closer you get to a yes. And that's really, I mean, if you are not like really weird on a call, like if you if you are really weird and you do weird things, and yeah, then maybe everyone will say no. But I believe, like, we all have common sense. We all can connect to people, right? Many of us, we are afraid of it, but we all can do it, right? It's not that difficult. You don't need to be like a salesperson in order to sell your art. People either want it or not, right? Art is a luxury. So there's not much you need to sell. As I said, one of the biggest things is just connecting with people. It's like, in terms of selling your art, that's like most of the work you have to do. Just connect with people, be able to build a relationship, okay? And so you don't need to be worried about how to sell, because again, you're not a salesperson, you're an artist. So if you get a lot of, let's say you get 5 no's, the next 2 people you're talking to could be a yes, But even making it a game out of it, not taking it seriously, and every time someone says no, you get excited and say, the next one will say yes, or one of the next ones will say yes, or I'm getting closer and closer to a yes. Because that's really what it takes. And you cannot get a no if you don't get to the finish line. And the finish line is getting to a point where someone is interested and says, yeah, I want it, how much is it? And you give it the price. You give them the price, right? That's a finish line. Most artists don't even get to that point for months and months, and then they wonder how is it that they don't sell. But again, if you give yourself, like, the finish line is every time is giving yourself a chance to sell something. If you get to the finish line once a month, the chances that you're going to sell something is very low. But if you get yourself to the finish line, again, where finish line is where someone can say yes or no, where someone can say, I take it, or it's too much for me, right? That's the finish line. And if you get there 10 times a week, I mean, you probably already make a living, because I believe that at least someone will buy your artwork. I mean, if you get 10 people, I mean, maybe you're talking to 15 people or 20 people per week, and like, let's say half of them or a handful of them are not an ideal fit, where you already realize, oh, they really don't have the money. So you don't even ask them. because maybe they already told you that they're struggling or whatever it is. And then 10 of them, you make them the offer, right? And out of 10, maybe one says yes. And then you have 4 yeses. So if you sell a painting for 4,000, that's already, how much is that? It's already 16,000, not bad, right? And that's just the estimate, right? But just to make you understand that you need to get to a place where you actually make offers, right? Where you actually say, this painting is that much. Do you want it? Yes or no? The more you do that, the more chances you have to actually sell something. And if you want to see how this painting looks like in the end, subscribe, because I will show it in another video once it's done, okay? And don't forget, if you want to make a living, if you want to have the step-by-step plan that I used and learn from me and Maria, click the link below, join our mastermind, because you will learn everything in there. We have live calls every single Monday. We have multiple live calls actually. We have mindset trainings. We have step-by-step guides. I have a program on how I sold so much art on Facebook, and it's 10 hours of content. I counted it together, so it's really in depth. So everything you ever will need to make it as an artist is in there. So if you're interested in that, just click the link below and I'll see you there. And one other thing, if you're really serious about selling art, you have to think more like a business person, and you have to focus on the needle movers. Right? Many artists do a lot of things that they want to do and feel like doing, like painting, but many of them have already not enough paintings, and they should spend more time on actually marketing their art, right? rappers,